يغني الله إفريم كما يوعلكم سميد سبلا يخمز بلو تمال إفريم بس دور لي كلالي له تعمي كبرتي واليوم مالتيو تعمي حقوس شناعي كمان زي فولطوب عركنا زي ستايل جبرو كاب شحن شعات 280 شدشتين كنقرأكم نفعلت بصدر درجة نفعلت مستولدة مالتي بقربة سو كبرتي نعي وخلاليو تولدي قرب كبكم بإنجليز سلزم ببعضي باكجراوند كاب سبعتات بتيوب زي أمريكا تمهرتو وديو ستانفورد ماستريت وديو بناي كمبيوتر تكنولوجي بزي عدون HP سرح نيرو قلنا بقدي سبعتات هبتنا يسمين أمريكا زي نبرنا يتمهارهم إسقاسيس أكتيفليس ساتف نيرو ناتسنيت مسوات كأني عدي كعبي عدي كمعبل يلو أتيو بعدي تي ناي كمبيوتر تكنولوجي كلالي سرعات ساقيسو تسرعات جنس أمام سلز هنا ناتوس أواتات نيرو مالتيو أبزو مسيو حجي بنحكي أبتناي زلوا من قصاص ناي فتح من قصاص ناي أتراويان تقاومو حدي رقاحي نتبي فتيركا نزل سرعة زي كل قصالو بزبل بأمنة كابتون بحلنا ذنك أساس السبيو سلزي زي sorry ولا تولدي مالتيو جن حجي بي إنجليش كم ببيعتها ناتو بايو Tolde Stefanos started his professional life in Silicon Valley. After Eritrea's independence, he left HP, where he left Packard, and moved to Eritrea with his family. Building on his engineering background, he started Stefanos Enterprises with his wife. Stefanos initially started by providing email services and eventually got the first private internet services provider, ISP, license in the country. With the focus on technology and knowledge transfer, it was necessary to hire university graduates with science and maths degrees. To narrow the skills gap, he spent long hours training and building confidence of hired staff. Introducing technology-based services that didn't exist in the country before was exciting in itself. Equally important, he also introduced a business culture that empowered employees to do their jobs with minimum interference. This liberating work environment, complemented with profit sharing and company picnics, helped Stefanos attract and retain some of the best talents in the country. The company's customer-centered culture was another positive attribute it was recognized for. Tolde no longer has interest in Stefanos, and most of the early talent Stefanos helped develop have left Eritrea. He now runs Solar Smart Africa at www.solarsmartafrica.com, providing solar solutions for off-grid communities. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Tolde Stefanos to the stage. Thank you.
I think that's too far, so I'm going to
أبتعتي خوني له مو تفضلوا لهم.
Desmele, thank you for the introduction. So I don't think we have that much time, so I'll try to rush through this and leave a few minutes for questions and answers. In terms of language, I think it probably will be Guramaila type. I may switch between English and Tigrinya, but I'll try to stick to English as much as possible. So the topic, as you can see, is information and communication technology. So what I'll try to do is, where have we been the last 25 years and what could happen, moving forward? So with that, let me first just define what information communication technology is. So, am I okay? Okay. So when we're talking about information, we're talking about content, books, newspapers, research, all kinds of knowledge, all kinds of facts. One thing to remember about information, though, is it's perishable, just like vegetables and fruits. Some information basically has a limited shelf life. So we need to be very careful in terms of understanding what's useful and what's not so useful. So that's the content part. And then once you have the content, you need a medium to get it across to the people who need the information. So with that, in the traditional sense, what did we use? Newspapers, books, libraries, that kind of thing. Today, internet is the primary medium of communication. So we have the content, we have the medium, and then what's the technology that's carrying all of this underneath? So in the traditional sense, again, printing presses. Today, basically phone lines, fiber optics, Wi-Fi, and so on. But the important element in this is, data centers. Well, you're collecting data, right? You need to manage that data, but the collection is not enough. You also have to make it easy for people to get that information. So that's why we have search engines and stuff like that to get it quicker to the customer. So I just want to get that baseline before we get into the details. Okay. No, I'm okay. Yeah. Information content, all right? It's all about content. But we know where our content providers are, right? So journalists basically do a good job of collecting the information and disseminating it to the public. We haven't had journalists for 16 years, so poor in content, okay? So now we have a single content provider in the whole country, a single individual, okay? No more journalists, there's no way to get information. We're resorting to a single individual basically giving the information on behalf of the whole country, right? To the extent that I'm sure you've heard this as an example, press releases are issued from the president's office about a certain ministry, and the sitting minister doesn't even ask you for your user name and password. When I was running the internet service in Eritrea, I was asked by security people to give them a list of usernames and passwords of my customers. Of course, I said no, because my loyalty is to my customers. And the direction of the discussion was not going very well. Fortunately for me, I had plans to get out of the country at that time. If I had stayed a little longer, I'm not sure I'll be here to talk to you today. So, discouraged, okay? And then, in terms of content, there is no local content, right? For the reasons we talked about. It's very low speed, and it's very expensive. Let me give you how expensive it is. When we started the internet in 2000, we were paying $1,000 a month for 64 kilobits per second. Okay, let me repeat that again. $1,000 per month for 64 kilobits per second. What's the internet bandwidth you get in your house today? Probably 5, 10, 20 megabits. And how much do you pay? $30, $50 maybe? So it's very expensive and very slow and poor content. Again, discouraged. I'm talking about 2000 now. Today, nothing has changed. It's pretty much the same, okay? And then there are excessive surprise fees. I'll mention one example, and then maybe later on we'll elaborate more. I had a modem concentrator that went bad and I had to replace it. It's a very good box from Lucent. I found it in eBay for $81, okay? $81, a used modem concentrator box from eBay. Guess how much I paid for customs fees? $600, okay? It's a used item, $81, $600 to clear it from customs. So again, discouraged, okay? How about the local talent? As Desbella mentioned, I had to train a lot of people who were graduates in science and math because we couldn't get experienced people to run the business. So you train them 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. I spent 6 years in Eritrea. Those 6 years were the most meaningful 6 years of my life. Why? Because you get these people, they know nothing about the technology that's there. You train them, they work day and night, and they get it. And then you say, well, there's hope. Because the only thing that was missing was the opportunity. And they're willing to work really hard, and they got it. And after 3, 4 months, basically you let them run the show. So unfortunately, that local talent has left Eritrea. 6 of the best people that I had are in Europe, in America, in Canada, doing very well. But unfortunately, that's talent that has been depleted outside of Eritrea. And then lost opportunities. One of the things, of course, when you get the internet, then you say, what can I do next, right? So one of the things that we wanted to do was to get part of the offshoring jobs that were going to India, Philippines, and so on. And then we thought, hey, you know, if Italy wanted to offshore some of their businesses, where could they go? Libya, Somalia, Eritrea, right? Maybe Albania, I don't know. And then Libya and Somalia, basically they get out of the picture, and the Eritrea becomes the only viable one. Why? Because there were very good Italian schools for years and years, with a good pipeline of graduates from those schools. And if an Italian company wanted to offshore jobs, we were in a position that we could be the first ones to take advantage of that. Couldn't happen. Why? Because the bandwidth is not enough, 64 kilobits per second, right? Is not enough to carry voice and high-speed data communications to support that kind of business. There's probably more bandwidth in this table than the whole business that we had in Eritrea, right? Here you can do video streaming, you can do Skype. You couldn't do that there with the bandwidth we had. So again, discouraged, okay? So content-wise, I mean, we haven't moved an inch, okay? And then how about on the communication and the technology side? This is the global ranking of Eritrea. There are 193 UN member countries. Our ranking is basically at the bottom. For landlines, 1% penetration, we are 154. Okay, you'll say landlines, who cares, right? It's not a growth technology. So let's even take that out of the picture. But how about mobile phones? 7% penetration, right? It's typically in Africa today for countries to have 60, 70% penetration with mobile phones. Some, like I think Namibia, are even above 100%, meaning some people have more than one mobile phone. But we're basically at the bottom here. So internet users, we're number 180 out of 193, but there are only 13 countries below us. Afghanistan and places like that. Smartphones, fiber, I'm not sure about that, but electricity, 170. And without electricity, there is no way you can run a meaningful ICT infrastructure, okay? So basically the bottom line from this is the ICT infrastructure in Eritrea is severely underdeveloped. And in the last 16 years, since I left Eritrea, nothing has changed, it's still the same, okay? And the reason for that is we have very low priority on technology and education. The technology part for the reasons I just talked about. And when you come to education, we are a country who closes the only university we had. So there is no surprise that we are where we are, okay? And then there is inadequate critical inputs. What do you need to have a healthy ICT infrastructure? Number one, electricity. Number two, a knowledge base. You need to have talent that you develop and you retain, okay? And number three, broadband. We don't have any of those, okay? So there's no surprise to see where we are. And then the exodus of the human capital is one of the biggest challenges we have. And that's the reason why you don't see any trace of knowledge economy in Eritrea. There is no e-commerce, vibrant e-commerce. There is no offshoring business. So that's the reason for that. Now, every now and then, we hear that there is, a seminar that invites new investment in Eritrea. I think 2 or 3 years ago, there was one that was really hyped up. Nothing came of it. Why? Because investors know a thing or two about ROI, right? So if I am going to invest, investor talking, is there reliable electricity to run my factory? No. Then there's no reason for that person to invest. Are there enough skills in the country to help me run my business? No. And then why would they invest? And then the big hoopla that was happening 2 or 3 years ago, what came of it? Nothing. And there is no surprise. Okay? So we have become all talk and no substance, really. Remember in the early 90s where we were saying Eritrea will follow the development path of Singapore, right? So we talked the talk, but we didn't have the discipline or the vision to do what Singapore did. If we stuck to that, maybe we could have done something like this. This is GDP, right? So in terms of GDP, Eritrea, you can see, we're pretty much around $1,100, $1,200 a year, okay? And then in Singapore, in the same 20 years, in 1980, they started with about $5,000 per GDP per capita, right? By 2010, they are 45,000, and we are pretty much flat. This is another view of it. So basically, in the last 22 years, this is what our GDP looks like. It's estimated about $1,200 per capita. For me, this looks a little high, and I'll get to that in a bit. But first, during the early 90s, there was a little bit of pickup, and then we flattened out. And then in 2011, it started picking up again. I think that's when we started, getting the gold revenues. Since 2011, it stayed flat. So the gold came up, picked that up a little bit, but it stayed flat after that. So there's nothing else. There's no other growth, basically, contributing to this. One thing about Eritrea is it's very difficult, reliable, and verifiable data. So everybody depends on estimated and guesses. The UN guesses, World Bank guesses, UNHCR guesses, everybody guesses. Because who is the content provider in Eritrea? It's the president's office. If he says it's a secret, how do you get reliable and verifiable data, right? So here is a guess, $1,200 per person per year. We are 5 million people. So if you multiply that, the whole output of our goods and services would be about $6 billion, right? Now, let's look at it a little bit. It's not adding up for me. So exports until 2010, this is exports for the whole country, right? $100 million, which is really nothing when you think of from a country level. 1 year later, 2011, it went to 375, I think because of the gold, right? And then the next one is remittances. I'm not sure even if remittances should add to GDP. I'm not an economist, but I'm just guessing here. So if you add the two high ticket items, it adds up to less than $800 million. Okay, but the GDP is supposed to be 6 billion across these estimates. Where is the rest coming from? Is it coming from industry, from agriculture, from fisheries? I doubt it. But I just want to point out that although the estimated data is $6 billion per year, it doesn't seem to add up if you try to peel the onion a bit. Okay, I'll show you very quickly a few maps. Here is a map of Africa in proportion to the rest of the world. I mean, it's pretty good, big land mass, okay? In terms of population in 2002, it suggests it's probably a little bit underpopulated because the geographic area is bigger than the population representation, right? In 2050, we are going to be bigger than our geographic area. So this is what I want to emphasize. It's about 30 years away. If we don't invest in the right things in the next 30 years, our problems will be compounded. If we don't reduce poverty, if we don't build on technology that improves our livelihood, basically we'll be talking about the same problems that we're talking about today in 30 years. Okay? But here is where it gets worse. In terms of books published, right? So now we are getting into knowledge, into productivity, into economic development. We don't exist. We don't exist. Mind you, the first one is the geographic area, okay? Now, when we map the map of the world by books published, we just don't exist. The little bit of it is coming from South Africa. Look at Japan and South Korea, small countries, and the amount of publishing that they do is a lot bigger than Sub-Saharan Africa. Now, the same thing, tertiary education, higher education, we don't exist. If you don't have higher education, you can't have meaningful scientific research, right? So the Sub-Saharan Africa, look at Japan, how big it is in terms of research. So because we are so far behind in higher education, the amount of scientific research we can do is not there. Access by electricity. Sub-Saharan Africa, almost not there. You can see Northern Africa, Libya, Algeria, represented there in South Africa. But Sub-Saharan Africa, nothing. And internet access, the same thing, because if there is no electricity, really, how can you have internet access widely? But just for comparison, Look at Japan, I wish I had a pointer. Look at Japan and the East Coast and South Korea and even Taiwan. Taiwan is not a UN member nation, I don't think, but look at the size of it, Mobile phones, most of them are in South Africa. But here is the scary part. We are number one in the world when it comes to population in armed services. This is the most destructive and non-productive area that you want to be. And Eritrea is number one, 43 out of 1,000, and the norm is 3 out of 1,000, okay? I think the 43 may be even higher because people from 20 to, 50, 60 years. So we're number one in the one place that we don't want to be number one, okay? If you look at diseases, malaria, that kind of thing, the rest of the world disappears. Look at America, Latin America, they're not even there. Africa basically takes the whole map after that. So the reason why I'm showing you this is, since you cannot get specific data about Eritrea, what you see about Africa here will give you a good idea where we are. In fact, with the armed services, we're the worst, okay? Now, so what have we lost? I don't know, I want to go back to the early 90s. I mean, the enthusiasm, the optimism that was in the 90s, it's all gone now. Yeah? So we lost a lot of momentum. The goodwill that was there in the early 90s, everybody wanted Eritrea to succeed. And then what did we do with it? Nothing. So if we built on that momentum, we would have been in a much better place today. Unfortunately, we didn't use it, so we lost that. And then the other thing we lost is the human capacity, which is very, very hard to replace. So according to the UNHCR, through 2014, there were more than 400,000 Eritrean refugees. 400,000 out of 5 million. That's a huge number, okay? And I'm guessing 10% of that probably will be professionals and highly educated ones. So when you're losing at that rate, the recovery period is going to be very hard. So I just want to point out, in terms of man years, okay, 400,000 people basically left. These are young people, in their 20s probably, with 30 to 50 years of productive, work life ahead of them. So basically, we are writing off that 30 to 50 years productive work of these 400,000 people. Unless we can attract them back, that's a huge loss for a small country like Eritrea. So sometimes I wonder, I don't know, did we choose poverty over prosperity? Can we recover? Yes, we can. But it's going to be very, very hard. The technology part is easy, actually. I'll show you why I think it is easy. Here are some hard disk prices. In the 1980s, the blue picture, that is what, 20 gigabytes of IBM hard disk system. It weighed 4,400 pounds, pretty much as much as a car. And the cost was $40,000 per gigabyte. 36 years later, you can get, 31 gigabytes in the USB devices, and then maybe 10 cents per gigabyte, the ones that we use in our laptops, okay? So the technology part is easy, okay? Here's another shot. I probably have the cheapest phone in the room. This is a Windows phone. It cost me $30. Just look what it's able to replace. A desktop with monitor and a router, TV, sound system, camera, video camera, GPS, and a lot more. $30. So the technology part is very, very easy. And it's easy and it's pervasive. I took this photo in Addis. For those of you who can't read the Amharic, it says, your mobile card alle. Okay? So you can get, you can buy minutes for mobile phone in any sidewalk. So the technology part is easy. The hardest part is the mindset change that we need to do to attract back the 400,000 people that we have lost, to give our people the opportunity in Eritrea so they can stay in Eritrea. Let me just point out one thing. We all know people who left Eritrea, right? They spend what, $10,000 in the, 10 years in the national service. What we were doing then? I don't know, going from We'a to someplace else, being unproductive. They go out, and then they become a totally different person. They thrive. Why? It's the same person. The only thing that changes is the environment. You put them out of Eritrea and put them in America, in Juba, I don't know, wherever. And then they excel. Why? Because they got the opportunity. The opportunity is what we're denying our people, basically. So we need to make that deep cultural transformation. This is the software part, because this is a mental part. It's kind of interesting, because the software is easy, but the software is hard, but the hardware is easy. So the technology is easy, that's the hardware. The mindset change that we need to do, the cultural transformation that we need to do is the hardest part. Okay? We need to have sound short-term and long-term policies. Where is the world going to? The world is going towards knowledge economy, robotics, automation. We cannot go to cheap labor attraction from China or whatever. That may be good for a short time, but labor is becoming an insignificant part of the whole equation. If you're serving a service or a product that costs $100,000, the labor part is a minuscule part, and it's shrinking. So you cannot be part of cheap labor economy anymore, because the technology is going to take that over. And we want to have systemic thinking. Let me just mention one thing. I don't know, some of you may be, I think a lot of you may remember Japan, okay? What did it mean? Poor quality, right? This was way back when I was a young man, okay? And then what did Japan do? They didn't just fix the product issue. They fixed a systemic problem. Quality became a culture. Now quality is in the product, in the design, in the education system, in management, on all kinds of processes. You don't even talk about it anymore because it's ingrained in the culture. So that's why I'm saying this is the hardest part we need to do. But we need to do that if we're going to move forward. I'm not going to dwell on this too much, but I just want to point out, if you're training young children today, 1 to 5 years old, when are they going to be productive? After 20 years, maybe. So we cannot start and stop like we've been doing. We have to start and stay the course. We want it to be like Singapore. We need to start and stay the course to be like Singapore. You just cannot talk about it. Yeah. So ICT as a development driver, what does it do? It makes things faster, most of the time better, and cheaper. Okay? When that happens, what are you doing? You're including a lot more people to participate in that process. When you have a lot of people participating, what is happening? The standard of living is getting lifted up. And it's a simple equation, really. Human progress equals knowledge plus hard work. It's that. The talent that I was telling you about in Eritrea, that's basically what they did. They worked hard. They increased their knowledge level. They worked hard again and increased it even more. So even Benjamin Franklin said what? Genius is 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. So you have to work hard, and it pays off. Okay, so in terms of productivity, what does it do? It multiplies your knowledge, your speed, your labor. Basically, it's a store that's open 24/7, and it's anywhere, anytime, okay? I can access it from Starbucks, I can access it from a vacation place, I can access it from a flash office, it doesn't matter, it's always there, okay? You can use it for work or for play. But, and here is the hard part, it needs some critical assets, electricity, broadband internet, and knowledge. Without those, it doesn't run. We have to get there if we want to lift the standard of living of our people. Of course, there are threats, right? The bad guys are always going to be there. But how do you defeat them? With knowledge. So unless you have the knowledge, you'll always be a victim, okay? So the key takeaways for me, the magic is, there is really no magic. The formula is simple. If we want progress, you need knowledge and it's complemented with hard work continuously. Integrate the ICT multiplicative benefits. Make it a culture, a mental transformation, a cultural transformation. It becomes a sharing economy rather than everything being a secret and being hogged by one person, right? And then develop and retain human capital. That's the most important part. What do we need to do? We need to have people feel like they have the freedom to pursue whatever they want to be without fear, okay? And then I just want to quickly go through that, and then we'll go into the question and answer session. This, I don't know, some of you may know about this, the Maslow hierarchy of benefits. It starts at the bottom, where every day you're thinking about survival, okay? So in Eritrea, I think we have been on the bottom for the last 25 years. So basically, hey, is there going to be electricity? Is there water? Can I get food for my kid? Can I stay away from the security people? So on the bottom ranks, basically, it's safety from lawlessness, from abuse, from war, and wanting to provide for your family. So every day from sunrise to sunset, if my mind is occupied with those needs, I'm not going to have any mental bandwidth to think about something else. So there is no way I can do better because every day is going to be the same cycle. But we need to get into the self-actualization level where any kid born in Eritrea can feel like there is no limit to what they can be other than their imagination. And that's, I think, where we need to go. But it's going to be hard. It needs discipline. We need to stay the course to get there. So I'll open it up for questions and answers. Thank you very much. I hope I didn't go.
Fantastic. حتون ملسين كلمة هنا هند حاوري تعلم تطول. Okay, so ስለዚ ደንጎና እቲ ብሬክ ገለ ክንሰግሮ ኢና እቲ ዲስካሽን ከዓ ዝበልናዮ ሓደ ክልተ ነገር ከዓ እሱ ከዓ ክንሰግሮ ኢና ስለዚ ኣብ መንጎ እንድሕሪ ሽንት ቤት ገለ ክትከዱ ደሊኹም ወይ ማይ ገለ ቀሲልኩም ሰላሕ ኢልኩም እትውፅእ ትብሉ ኢኹም ሕጂ ሕቶን መልስን ክንኣቱ ኢና ሓደ እንድዒ ተበዝሐ ሰለስተ ሕቶ ግን ብጣዕሚ very fantastic presentation ግን ሕቶ ከዓ ብዙሕ ክህሉ እዩ so ሕቶ ዘሎ بتقرنيا أيت ربنا.
Okay.
Alright. Thank you.
أنا بتابع أحمد يوسف يا قد سلام أخلوه هو. Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. program يقولون لنا نحن بتقرنيا الإنجليزي بهميو لا تي presenter هنا مور جنبنايو هذا technology قال عين كامل الباش هذا أمرامي بتقول خاطر المهارين هذا لنا برو زيادات شكرا عليك thank you مو حلو اوكي مو اصحاب مرحبا
اوكي
ثلاث حدو ثلاث مثلا
اوكي I guess has failed, so we're done. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
سمع على
هو
ناي بحكي صبوق برزنتيشن نيرو انا حنتي كابتن هارد ورك زبلك مستناي تعدقنا هتا تحيزه حتى كعمد له ابتعدسي حصير اقراጭ هبتي منقد استثري له زعله في 25 عامت حجي هارد ورك زبال سنه توليد زعبيس ايصلون يوم مالتي نزس كابتن مكروخا بخمي ريفرس كون يخلي كتحسب يعني لي
اوكي اسك عندنا برحت لنا لا تحته
هو انتي بدحن كحصرو يلندي منالبات قرب كبرهالكا حدا سبسي اب نولج استمركوس عبيت اب ارترا زامن ولدوس اب زحلف اوانس وحد فري ولا تزكوما عينت رديت زنورو ندحري تمليسو مالتي حجي ابزقات اتحساسبا قالي كم تقولص صنا حكاس knowledge ዝተመርኮሰ ዕቤት ጥራሕ sustainable ዝኸውን ነዚኣ ሕጅስ ትሕጂ ዘለዎ ወለዶስ ካብ ተመክሮኻስ ብኸመይ ናብ ከምኡ ክምለስ ዝኽእል ይቐኒለይ
ጽባቐቶ okay thank you I think the environment እንተ ዓሪናዮ you know ከዕረይሉ ዝኽእል ባይታታት ኣሎ ቀሊል ኣይክኸውን እዩ ግን መጀመርያ you know ካብቲ ቤዚክስ ክትጅምር ኣለካ so ኣነ ሕጂ ዘይሰማዓሉ እዚ ብፅፍርና ዝብል ዘረባ ኣሎ ነው እቶም ጽፍሮም ዝረስሑ እንተዝብልዎ okay fine ሓረስታይ ብጽፍረይ ክብል ከሎ ጽፍሩ ረሲሕ እዩ ጽፍሩ ዘይረስሐ ብጽፍርና ክብል ከሎ ግን ከምዚ ሰራሕተኛ መሲሉ ንሱስ ነቲ ካልእ زي سراحتنا زري عينت قانقا سمع كله اتقانقاتي كابتي بهلنا هو تسألوا زي نايبورا بومباستيك مخان على لابيلكا من بيج زي بلو we are number one قال I think نسون دحروسينا يوسي then مس قرابتنا خنا زامو دينا شو okay أنا إثيوبيا خيلني about a year ago حجي زخانة جمجمات كلونا خيلي بزعبة إثيوبيا مين ناتهم سجمات بزحون whatever جن كم مارس زمت أسب أب إيرتران أب إثيوبيا أنت تريو I think he would tell you you know نساتهم they're doing a better job than us in terms of development in terms of infrastructure okay هول دي وايكونن قالوا قداي جن أمس إيه خنا حدا سبسكز ينكل تعدتات زين مزنن تلكاسي I think it's obvious, you know. حلنا زلوا سبسي, he will tell you which one. أحمد يوسف عنتوي الواز نبرة رسيعة. تيناي عسب قال ملازم الزنبرة. You know, حجز contrary to our independent spirit, عسب انتهى هوينا زلا. It has become a foreign military base in essence. بأنصارو جيبوتي انتهى هوينو. It's booming, you know. حجي تي زحتت كاحتنا ونديهم ملسو انت دابقن عنا رئينايو تي غربابتنا زغبر زلو سراح نولج كم زواص اكاس قلطيفكا كترديخا نسو مسترداكا دحراي كتسقم تخل مجمريا مس نفسها تتعرق لك ازي زي كونه امنت حيزكا انا خمزي مبال منم بيز زي بلو أبزب صحكا خمزي لو داكا غروبي كان دحر خطر جاميركا حجي ناي جيبوتي بورت فاسيليتي سندهر رينا تي اوزلو بيزنس دايناميك سنتر اينا سي مس مساوان عسبن دحريت كم استرفنا خرد داكايو and then you will try to do the right thing قرب تي مجمراسي you have to have commitment for the truth كاوم سنقلكا شعو ما بالغ ما تسخيلي انا كم بالكم اسلامي I think take it
ناتي حتاسي اتي كله ابق جمجم تغير رداني كوم ايد الله حدا جن عبي شجر كوين سمعنا مالتي اتي كله فراي حيلنا ارترا ابدا جوزي الله مسان الله ابزلو انت يقبروا علو انت الكامكا من البا تاكسي زوروا علو وي اوبر زوروا علو مالتي كميد امثل حنقولاتي دبل زلو بمخنيات دتقمن زي تقمن مخنياتات هو شجر قال لهم كسرح لهم كحجز لهم نفسهم جن انتي بلان الله وي علكا تيديكيت از مور كم زيجي نعمنت انا نفسي ندحر رخيبه ياسير رخيبه يالله نفسي كحجز يا قابون دحريت اندا غبركو تزغبرو مسدراي حقوسكو معالتاو نابراي اندا غبركو كل ነገር اندا غبركو سلامتاي سي we are wasting so much عدل هجون انت هنا thousands and thousands of men زياد الله بزي ابز بارازقا ابز اخي بازي مصني ابز بارازقا يموعلن يمسن الله ስለዚህ ሳነስ እንታይ ያክብል ደልያ ሓደ ነዚ ዝሃብካን ኣስተምሮ appreciate ገብሮ ቀዳማይ ካልኣይ ካ can we see more بناتك initiative نايز محبر طرح دي كون سي بتبغسو كنرئ نخل دو كما خاد امسلكم وصخو لدو اكل نايت كوميونيتي كود دو نمهار دو ስለዚህ ኣብ ከምዚ ዳመሰለ ኩነታት ሲ ምናልባት እንተ ደይ ሓሰብካሉ እንተ ሓሰብካሉ ዝበለጸ ኮይኑ ይስማዓኒ ወእንታይ ፕላን ክግበር ምተኻእለ ኢልካ ትግምግም thank you
okay I think it's أجمع كويس معنا أنا انتشمي فنتحت حيلنا له you know ተስፋ ዝህብ ክርከብ ኣለዎ እዝን እንተዝግበርሲ እዚ ኮሙ ኾነ እሞ ብዘረባ ጥራሕ ዘይኮነስ ብግብሪ ከዓ ናብ ገጽካ ትብገሰሉ you know ሕጂ ኣብዚ ቤይ ኤሪያስ I don't know 15,000 20,000 ንኸውን ኤርትራውያን ኣለና ዶ I don't know ሕጂ this is a good representation ግን is it enough እንታይ ይጎዲሉ ዘሎ ስለምንታይ ኢና ኣብ ሓደ ንኸይድ ኣብ ሓደ ንኸይድን ስለምንታይ ኢና ነናሕድሕድና ዲቫልዩ ንገባበር ንሱ I don't know ብዙሕ ተመክሮታት የብለይን ግን እንታይ ኣዝብል ካብ ነብስኻ ክጅመር ኣለዎ ኣነ ምስ ነብሰይ ክትዓረቕ ኣለኒ መጀመርያ ንዓኻ ዝብለካን ደስ በለ ዝብሎን ንዝኾነ ዝብሎን ሲ ኮንሲስተንት ክኸውን ኣለዎ ብዙሕ ግዜ ዘረባታት ትሰምዐኻ you know ደገፍቲ ናይ ስርዓት ኮይኖም ምሳኻ ክዛረቡ ከለዉ ግን you know እቲ ህንጡ ያዘራርባ ይስምዑኻን እዮም you know ቁሩብ ይዕቀቡ ምክንያቱ they know እንዳሕር ትፈልጥ ኮይንካ ዳሞ ስለምንታይ ናብቲ ሓቂ ተመርኩዝካሲ ዝዓበየ ሶሉሽን ዘይተምፅእ you know I hope you're not going to misunderstand me ግን ብዙሓት መንእሰያት ሕጂ ብፓናማ ዶ ብገለ ኮለል ኢልካ ትመፅእ ምሽ እዚ ኩሉ ኮለል ዘበለካ እቲ ስርዓት እዩ ኦኬ ዳሕሪ የቁርብ ግዜ ግን በቃ ናይ ጣሳ መልእካ you know ዓዲ ትኸይድ ቁርብ ዘይንፅመም you know እንዳሕር ተፀሚምና ብሓንሳብ ተቃሊስና ሲ in 3 years 5 years ኮ ክኸይድ ይኽእል እዩ ስዑ ከምትላይካ ትኸይድ you know so I think እቲ ምስ ነብስኻ ክትተዓርቕ ኣለካ ኣነ ከምኡ እንድሕር ኮይነ ሲ መጀመርያ ናተይ ኢሹስ ሪኮንሳይል ክገብር ኣለኒ you know ንሱ ምስ ገበርካ ሽዑ ነተይ ሓቂ ሓቢርካ ክትጓዓዘሉ ትኽእል ኢኻ ግን ናይ ቀል ዓለም ብዙሕ ዘረባታት ትሰምዕ ኣነ I will do my best ከምዚታት እንድሕሪ ኣድላይ ኮይኑ ሲ ኣብ ዝኾነ ኣጋጣሚ ክትሓጋገዝ ይኽእል እየ ግን I think እቲ ፀገም ዘለና ሲ ምስ ነብስና ምስ ውልቅና ኣይተዓረቕናን ኣነስ እቲ ኣብዚ ዝብሎን ኣብ ካልእ ቦታ ዝብሎን ሓደ ዓይነት ቶን ክኸውን ኣለዎ ሽዑ እቲ ፀገምና ኩልና ሓደ ሓንቲ እያ ፀገምና ወላ ሓንቲ ካልእ የብልናን so እንድሕር ከምኡ ኣብቲ ቶን እቲ እንድሕር በፂሕና ሽዑ ምዕባለ ክንገበር ንኽእል ኮይኑ ይስማዓኒ ዓሻ
Okay.
Thank you كبر حوت والده أنا بحكي أبز مسيخ زي أستمر ده كنا بتعمي كبر تعدل بزحنا نمسجنك كم أون تم عدلوتي نظام حلفتنا بعلنا دمرتنا يوم ناي محورنا نعم نظم الدلور قرما مسجنا بصحيح كبر حوت والده لك كم زقت بلاد صنع خان معبالة زخيد قرب أنت أشمق تمايرنا نبل جن حجي أبوتاتنا تم عبيتي دي تمارون تاي لما مسلو مسلكا تم بعرب دقولو على علم النور تم بتقرنيا الزار ودما تمهرتس مبراتي يبلو مالتي قم زغت بلاد صنعقا حجي نزو كل زي تمهرت زي بلام كله نتم مهورات مويا حبرو يريئوها وتم مهورات قلنا نتم دي مهورات مويا كبر كتوا زخولون disrespect اللوام إزي تجارج أولا خلا أي عبيتنا أشتون دبل قلت تنتناتات بحكي نمع بالده وعز تنتناتات الله حجر كا عبيت ده حزت ناشت ده حزت دك نستي ده حزت دك تبعتي ده حزت يا نايز كل زوجكم دمر يا حجر تخون مالتي كسالسيتي إتي أنصار مقبلنا نزقت قلت أنا خنا ورانك جبرنا زي كل بحر قص دلو ن أوراجاتات من في الولايات لتقوم اللونا ما نزي حصر بالكا نافتن مقبلنا خيدنا زخيل كابست مركزكا انت حبركا نزجزات بزولة سيقني اللي.
أوكي. قرب كتبت عني تحت مثلاً لي بس هنا تكنولوجي كابت بوليتيكا وتأثير لزنبرت قلنا هني it's okay بوليتيكا رئيسون علني so it's okay I think أبتي ناي أوراجات كلام لا أنا أنت أزبل maybe نايف تأخذون خيليو نتي normal نجر abnormal نقبر لنا مثلاً you know كمي مالته let's say بأمريكان وصدق نيويورك زنبرة سان فرانسيسكو متسينبل تهار نيويورك سان فرانسيسكو كأساس عطالوا you know أتي ودي نيويورك سكسمايو so human nature ينسو كابتيز تولد كارلو سمع كاجلس ولا حد سجم يقولون جن حمق نجار كأقلو مسو أتسمعتي you know ጴጥሮስ እንድሕሪ ወዲ ዓደይ ዘይኮነስ ስራሐይ ህቦን እየ እንድሕሪ ኮይኑ እዚ ካልእ ታሽም እዩ ሕጂ ንሕና ኣይንፈላለዮም ኮይኑ ይስምዓኒ ነቲ ስምዒታትስ ኣይንፈላለዮም ኮይኑ ይስምዓኒ ሂውማን ኔቸር ኖርማል ዝኾነ ስምዒት ኣሎ ንሱ ኣቦቱ ይኽድ ግን ንኩሉ ንሓዋውሶ ኮይኑ ይስምዓኒ ሶ ፐርሰናሊ ኣነ ናይ ኣውራጃ ፀገም የብልናን የዝብል ኦኬ ናይቭ ክኸውን ንኽእል እዩ በት ዳትስ ዋት ኣይ ቢሊቭ ምክንያቱ ስለ ዘይፈላለናዮ እዩ ኦኬ ምክንያቱ ኣብ ትምህርቲ ኣብ ስራሕ ምስ ኣተኻሲ ንሱ ዳዝ ማተር እቲ ስራሕ እንተ ትምህርትን ኣይግድሶን እዩ ነቲ ኣሳሊጦ ዘስርሖ ዳኣዩ ብልጫ ዝህቦ እምበር ወዲ ክስቶ ኣይብልን እዩ ሶ ኣይ ቲንክ እቲ ናይ ኣውራጃ ንዓይ ከም ዝመስለኒ ፈላሊና ስለ ዘይንርእዮ ኩሉ ስለ ንሓዋውሶ ኢና ነጋድዶ ዘለና እምበር ከምኡ ኮይኑ ኣይስምዓንን ሶ that's my take on it. Yeah.
Yo, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
My question aptia Anto izarab nerka only 64k to nerka speed na Eritrea no. Hajira we see ana imo wala Viber kmetsa niriyolana kab Eritrea malati. What is without any fearing kab Eritrea كم حلال فوز غلوم تاشموس على بزي عنتوي حتوني يحتون نيرو من تتكيمو بعد من يومتي لسه حتوان نيرو جن أبز ساعة زغ بزي فرحي كم حلال فوز غلوم مقدس على there is any new technology مالتي
زخونة technology أقارج أثالو حجي I'm sure تسرعتي مس China مس قال ركبات غيرو جنزبالو إرترا جنزب زي بلامبر نسو جنزبالو so they can buy any technology to جن عقمي علوديو technology كم تزبالكو no problem حصوريو علو جن عقمي خا علوديو نوران زجبر هجي أتيكم مسبولني باسورد هبنا مسبولني نتوم customers انتاي لهم كلتا عينة إيميل نيرو حدا لوكال إيميل جمال يزبهال نيروتي ناتنا سيرفر مدى أتجمل زبل أي تتقام ياهو تتقام مغنياتو ياهو نخد كيسي تجيت وي حليف كيخا لوك تجبرنو أتنا جمال ندحر خوينو جن أبوش إرتراها لوك تجبر حجي كوموتات هاي تجبرو قال إنه بلوم نيرنا نتوم حدا من البات بحدا قادو هوت كوخيلنا نكموتهم زنبرنا so the technology part is not a problem I'm sure they have it again do they have the capacity to run it أجولات عن ناي تيليكوم زنبرو حدا إنجنيراسي بزحات قدي فمهم زوجي يفلت so حاجة شيء خطرين تكبر so ناي human capacity وتي شجرمبر ناي technologies أجمع زلمة مثلاً so what do they do Viber حجي the last I heard I don't think أبي إرترا سرح زلمة مثلاً سلزي قاعد هو يقول اليوم بتي ويب سايت بقول ملك الجركا جن عند هذا اللي خاص يغوش إيرترا دلاك أخذ كبر له تخيل بإنكريبشن ديو بتسامع كابري باسورد جركا دي جلس بزح من قديت هتالو ولا زخونة تكنولوجيا أم نتي تكنولوجيا زسعر كأخلي تكنولوجيا له so I think the technology قليليو جن نوعه رانز جبر capacity جن continuously من البات هلو من خوان بر قاعد يقول خليهم.
أوكي. تعمل كومنت على اللوجو لأن تودينا. من يأخذ الكومنت
تحت كون هبناي بصايتك تحتها دارجا قرباي تملست نزبلتا شو مغيره.
أوكي.
هو تحتو زنبرت سخاخم مهور متأنسي انتاي تبركت وين تاي معدن ندخل وين تاي حساب لك انيرو زخون خوينو كن حدا غزي سبعلو نمن اد قرب يبلو يمسلن تولن نوبسخن اد ايدلين كن انا خندو خوينه خزاربت خوينه تولد كابتوم اللونا نبلوم سينيور انجينيريو مجمريا ناصنت مسوصتون ኤርትራ ስሩሑ ገዲፉ አቡ ዓብይ ትካል ናይ ቴክኖሎጂ ዝገበረ ነገር እዩ ግን አጋጣሚ ምስቲ ስርዓት ከስርሑ ስለ ዘይከኣለ ገዲፍዎ ማለት እዩ ሕጂውን ንምዕባለ ቴክኖሎጂ ናብ ኤርትራ ይኹን ናብ አፍሪካ ብዙሕ ዝፅዕር ዘሎ ሰብ እዩ ከም ምሳሌውን ሕጂውን ኣብ ዝቀረባ ግዜ ምስ ብፀቱ ኮይኑ ሓንቲ ዓባይ ነገር ዝመሃዛ እንተሎ ناي سولار لايتس ناي سولار تفلطيكم اب افريقيا بحلف بإيرترا انت عينت شجرنا الكتريك كنزلو حجن سولار لايتون ميهزو اب عدغا اودي قلو سلازي كابصاي تولده بزحنا نصبح حجزيون كوينلو كاليون كقصليو مالتي سلازي اذا ناي سولار لايتون اب عدغا ودي قالا نابسمرا زخدو ببزحي وسدوالو حجي ምናልባት ናበስ መራዝ ሆዱ ናብ ስድራሁም ክትሰዱ ትደልዩ እንትኾንኩምውን ብቀረባ አላ ኣብ ኤርትራን ኮሚኒቲ ናይ ሰና ክላራ እንድሕደው ኢልኩም ኣብኡ ዊ ካን ሳፕላይ ዩ ስለዚ ተወልደ ሕጂ ነመስግነካ ወነብስኻ ባዕልኻ ክትንህዳ አይደለኻን ግን ዊ አር ፕራውድ ኦፍ ዩ ያ ፕራውድ
ኦኬ ታንክ ዩ ጣዕመ አኽቢት ካለይ ግን ቆርብ ታንክ ዩ
thank you very much تتولى بتعمل صبوع تمرتنيرو كم زهن كتلوها تسمع نقبر حجي درجة حن ساعات بدهرنا لنا